In the world of high-performance cars, very few stories have created as much noise and debate as the recent rebuild of a crashed Bugatti Chiron by Matt Armstrong. This was not just another repair project where a damaged car gets fixed and put back on the road. Instead, it became a powerful example of what happens when skill, determination, and creativity challenge the traditional system controlled by manufacturers. The story begins with a heavily damaged Bugatti Chiron, a car that represents one of the highest levels of engineering and exclusivity in the automotive world. After a serious crash, the car was left with major structural damage, deployed airbags, and broken systems that would normally require factory-level repair. Bugatti's position on such cases has always been very strict. They believe that repairs of this level can only be done in their approved facilities, using their tools, their parts, and their processes. This creates a closed system where owners depend entirely on the manufacturer. However, instead of following this path, Matt Armstrong decided to take a completely different approach. He brought the car into a normal workshop environment, without factory support, and started the rebuild process from scratch. Right from the beginning, the project felt impossible to many people. The idea of repairing such a complex hypercar outside of Bugatti's official network seemed unrealistic. But this is where the story becomes interesting. Instead of accepting limitations, Matt and his team began to break down each problem step by step. They treated the car not as an untouchable machine, but as something that could be understood, repaired, and rebuilt with the right knowledge. This mindset is what drives the entire story forward. It shifts the focus from fear of complexity to confidence in skill. As the rebuild progresses, it becomes clear that this is not just about fixing a car. It is about challenging the idea that only manufacturers have the ability to repair their own creations. The Chiron, once seen as something that could only be handled by Bugatti experts, is now sitting in a regular workshop, ready to be rebuilt piece by piece. This moment sets the tone for everything that follows. It introduces a bigger question that goes beyond one car. Can modern hypercars really only be repaired by the companies that build them, or is that belief more about control than necessity? This question stays at the center of the entire journey and gives the story its real PowerPoint. One of the most impressive parts of the rebuild process is the structural repair work carried out by a skilled fabricator named Bob. The damage to the Chiron was not small or simple. The front section of the car had been badly affected, with twisted metal and compromised structural components. According to Bugatti, this kind of damage would require specialized factory conditions to repair properly. However, Bob approached the problem with a calm and methodical mindset. Instead of replacing entire sections with expensive factory parts, he focused on understanding the structure and rebuilding it step by step. The process started with removing the damaged aluminum sections carefully. This was not about cutting everything out quickly, but about preserving as much of the original structure as possible. Once the damaged areas were exposed, Bob used controlled heat to slowly bring the metal back into shape. This required patience and experience, as too much heat could weaken the material, while too little would not achieve the desired result. As the repair continued, Bob began fabricating new parts from scratch. He recreated the chassis leg box section, using the correct type of aluminum, ensuring that the strength and geometry matched the original design. Each piece was measured, shaped, and fitted with extreme precision. The process involved constant checking of alignment to make sure everything stayed true to the car's structure. What makes this even more impressive is that all of this work was done without factory tools or special authorization. It was simply a combination of skill, knowledge, and dedication. As the repair neared completion, the rebuilt section looked almost identical to the original. The damage became invisible, and the structure was restored to a functional state. This moment is important because it directly challenges Bugatti's claim that such repairs cannot be done outside their system. It shows that with the right expertise, even complex structural work can be handled independently. This does not mean the manufacturer is wrong in wanting high standards, but it does suggest that those standards are not limited to factory environments. The success of this repair becomes one of the strongest arguments in the entire story. It proves that the limits set by manufacturers may not always reflect what is truly possible. While the structural work was taking place, another part of the project began to develop, focusing on the interior of the Chiron. Instead of restoring it to its original condition, Matt Armstrong chose to completely redesign it. This decision turned the car from a simple repair project into something far more unique and personal. The original interior, which included black leather, Alcantara, and bronze trim, was removed entirely. In its place, a bold new design was introduced. The new interior featured a combination of purple and white leather, creating a look that had never been seen in a Bugatti before. This was not just about changing colors, but about creating something that reflected individuality. The process involved detailed craftsmanship. Patterns were designed digitally and then applied to the leather using vinyl stencils. Paint was layered carefully onto the material, and heat was used to fix the design permanently. This method ensured that the patterns would not fade or were easily over time. The seats were also rebuilt using the original foam as a base, but with new stitching and materials to match the updated design. Every detail was considered, from the placement of colors to the finishing of edges. Even the original bronze trim, which was initially planned to be removed, was reintroduced into the design. Instead of clashing with the new colors, it provided a strong contrast that enhanced the overall look. The result was an interior that felt both luxurious and artistic. It transformed the Chiron into a one-of-a-kind creation. This part of the project highlights a different kind of freedom. While manufacturers often focus on consistency and brand identity, independent builders have the ability to experiment and create something completely new. The interior redesign shows that a hypercar does not have to remain fixed in its original form. It can evolve into something that reflects the vision of its owner. This idea adds another layer to the story. It is not just about repairing what was broken, but about reimagining what the car can become. The Chiron is no longer just a Bugatti product. It becomes a unique expression of creativity and craftsmanship. One of the most talked about moments in the entire rebuild comes from the discovery related to the car's airbags. While removing the passenger airbag, Matt noticed markings that indicated it was part of the Volkswagen Group. This was surprising because Bugatti is often presented as a brand that uses highly specialized and exclusive components. Curious about this finding, Matt decided to investigate further. He located the part number and traced it back to an Audi A3 airbag. To confirm whether this was just a coincidence or something more significant, he ordered an actual Audi A3 airbag for comparison. When the part arrived, the similarities were clear. The shape, mounting points, and connector layout matched closely. When fitted into the Chiron's dashboard, the airbag aligned perfectly. This raised an important question about how parts are shared within large automotive groups. It is common for manufacturers to share components across different models to reduce costs and improve efficiency. However, this practice is not always highlighted when it comes to high-end brands. The discovery does not necessarily mean that Bugatti is misleading customers, but it does challenge the idea that every component is completely unique. A similar situation occurred with the steering wheel airbag, which appeared to have connections to Aston Martin. Instead of waiting for official parts, Matt reused components and adapted them to fit the car. This approach showed that alternative solutions can work when handled carefully. However, it is important to understand that airbags are safety-critical components, and any modification must be done with extreme caution. The broader point here is not about replacing parts casually, but about understanding how these systems are designed. The findings suggest that even in the most exclusive cars, there could be elements of shared engineering. This does not reduce the value of the car, but it does change the perception of how unique it really is. The airbag discovery becomes one of the most debated aspects of the project. It adds a layer of controversy and encourages people to question the relationship between luxury branding and actual engineering practices. Another major challenge in the rebuild was the cooling system. The radiators in the Chiron have been severely damaged during the crash, making them unusable. Normally, replacing such components through Bugatti's official network would be extremely expensive and time-consuming. Instead of following that route, Bob decided to create a custom solution. He sourced radiator cores from a commercial supplier that matched the required size and performance specifications. Using these cores, he began building a new cooling system from scratch. This involved designing and fabricating mounting brackets, connecting hoses, and ensuring proper fitment within the car. The process required a deep understanding of how the cooling system works. It was not enough to simply install new parts. The system had to maintain proper pressure, flow, and temperature control. Once the new radiators were installed, The system was tested to check for leaks and performance. Initially, everything appeared to be working correctly. However, a small issue was later discovered when a minor leak was found in one of the radiator seams. This problem was traced back to transport damage rather than a design flaw. While it was a setback, it did not undermine the overall success of the system. The cooling setup proved that it is possible to rebuild complex systems without relying entirely on manufacturer parts. This part of the story reinforces the main theme of independence. It shows that with the right approach, alternative solutions can be both effective and reliable. However, it also highlights the importance of careful testing and quality control. Building something from scratch comes with risks, and those risks must be managed properly. The cooling system becomes another example of how traditional limits can be challenged. It demonstrates that innovation is not limited to large companies. Skilled individuals can also create solutions that meet high standards. This idea adds depth to the overall narrative and strengthens the argument that the automotive world is changing as all the major components came together. The project moved closer to its most important moment, the first startup attempt. This moment carried a lot of pressure because it would determine whether all the hard work had been successful. The chassis had been repaired, the interior completed, the airbags installed, and the cooling system rebuilt. Everything was in place. But the car still needed to prove that it could function as intended. Before starting the engine, the team carefully checked every system. The cooling system was pressure tested, electrical connections were verified, and all components were inspected for any issues. The attention to detail at this stage was critical. Even a small mistake could lead to major problems once the engine was running. Inside the car, the transformation was clearly visible. The purple and white interior created a striking contrast, while the exterior looked complete once again. It was hard to believe that this was the same car that had arrived as a wreck. However, just before the startup, the small leak in the cooling system became a concern. While it was not a major failure, it needed to be addressed before the engine could run at full temperature. This moment added tension to the story. It reminded everyone that even after months of work, challenges can still appear. The project was close to success, but not quite there yet. This stage of the rebuild highlights the importance of patience and persistence. It shows that progress is not always smooth, and setbacks are part of the process. The anticipation of the first startup creates a strong emotional moment. It brings together all the elements of the story and focuses them on a single point. Will the car run again, or will there be more obstacles to overcome? This question keeps the audience engaged and invested in the outcome. It also reflects the reality of complex projects. Success is not guaranteed, and every step must be handled with care. In the end, the rebuild of the Bugatti Chiron becomes more than just a technical achievement. It turns into a powerful statement about the future of the automotive industry. The project challenges the idea that modern hypercars are closed systems that can only be repaired by manufacturers. It shows that skilled individuals can achieve results that were once thought impossible. At the same time, it raises important questions about control, access, and transparency. Manufacturers like Bugatti operate in a world where quality and safety are extremely important, and their strict policies are often designed to protect both the car and the customer. However, this project suggests that there may be room for a more open approach. Independent repair does not have to mean lower standards. With the right expertise, it can produce results that meet or even exceed expectations. The story also highlights the role of creativity in engineering. The custom interior, the fabricated parts, and the innovative solutions all show that there is more than one way to approach a problem. This flexibility is what drives progress and pushes boundaries. As the Chiron moves closer to running again, it represents a shift in how people think about cars. It is no longer just about ownership, but about understanding and control. The project encourages others to question what is possible and to explore new ways of solving problems. It also shows the power of sharing knowledge through platforms like YouTube, where complex ideas can reach a wide audience. The rebuild becomes a symbol of change, not just for one car, but for the entire industry. It suggests that the future may include a balance between manufacturer control and independent innovation. This balance could lead to better outcomes for everyone, from car owners to engineers. In the end, The real impact of this project is not just that a damaged Chiron was rebuilt. It is that the limits of what could be done have been redefined as the project continued to gain attention online. The rebuild of the Bugatti Chiron by Matt Armstrong started to have an impact far beyond the workshop itself. What began as a technical challenge quickly turned into a global discussion about how modern cars are designed, repaired, and controlled. Viewers from around the world followed each step of the process, not just because of the car's value, but because of what it represented. Many people began questioning whether manufacturers intentionally create systems that limit independent repair. This idea is often linked to a larger movement known as the right to repair, which argues that owners should have the freedom to fix their own products or choose who repairs them. In the automotive world, this issue is becoming more important as cars become more complex and dependent on software, sensors, and specialized components. The Chiron rebuild became a real-world example of this debate. It showed that even one of the most advanced hypercars in the world could be worked on outside the official network. At the same time, it also highlighted the challenges involved. Access to parts, technical information, and proper tools can make a huge difference in how easy or difficult a repair becomes. Some viewers supported Matt's approach, seeing it as a step toward more freedom and transparency. Others raised concerns about safety and long-term reliability, especially when dealing with critical systems like airbags and structural components. This mix of opinions added depth to the conversation. It was no longer just about whether the car could be rebuilt, but about what that rebuild meant for the future. Social media played a big role in spreading this discussion. Clips, reactions, and breakdowns of the project appeared across multiple platforms, each adding a different perspective